All right, so introductory geoprocessing lesson here. We're gonna buffer the sidewalks, and then to make them into a polygon. Then we're gonna take all of the impervious surfaces and buildings, and we're gonna merge it all together into one file. Then we're gonna dissolve that so only the boundaries of those many overlapping things are left, and then we're gonna erase that from the underlying parcels. Then we're gonna get the area of the parcels before and after to get the percent developed of the campus. So you just group these things. Everything that is a building or a parking lot, I would call impervious or developed area, right? And then we have the UNE parcels. And then we have the pathways, which is our first step, is to, I suppose, merge the pathways together and then figure out how much to buffer them by. So we'll add in the air photo for reference here, because we gotta measure the pathway to see what an average of halfway is. So when we do a buffer around the line, I'll show you, I think, is the best way to finish that sentence. All right, so take our measure tool, and we'll say that the pathways are typically 10 feet wide. Sounds about right. This one probably 15, 20 feet. This one 8. This one 15. Let's say they're typically 12 feet wide, right? So we're gonna take the line and turn it into a polygon using a buffer. So the way we find geoprocessing tools is, remember in the last class Matt said people want to know about the analysis tool set. All of the tools I mentioned are in here. So if we look at extract, overlay, I suppose we could use some of these tools. Buffer is going to be in proximity, and then erase is actually somewhere else. And I think we'll use a union actually instead of a merge, but we could go either way. Anyway, that's one way to find a geoprocessing tool. For the next one, we'll find it a different way. But if you go to buffer, you can right click on it and say open. And I can drop my pathways in. And I can make a new database for percent developed. New database. And then within there, I'm going to call this one pathway. A lot of times when I do stuff like this, I like to put put exactly what it is in there. So I'm going to do a 12-foot buffer, and I'm going to put that in the name of the file I'm making. And then all I have to do is type in 12. The text over here actually is really helpful. If you don't have it, you can show help or hide help. But if you click on each box, it'll change and update to help you along. For this, we want to do a dissolve type of all, which that's the only option that we'll pick, and I'll show you what happens there. It just means instead of having oh, that was the pathway down here. Okay, so I can show you. All right, so what we did is we made this polygon out of the line, right? So you can see that it took 12 feet on either side of the line, and it made a polygon, which we'll use to estimate that that's going to be developed, some kind of a sidewalk or something. So now we need to do it to the line up here, which in last class, they just did it in 2 halves. One trick is if you go to Geoprocessing, this drop down up here, and then you go to results, it's a nice window where it'll list out all the geoprocessing that you've done. And the best part about it, when I can grab it, is that if I go to the current session, I can see I did a buffer previously. And if I double click on that, it'll bring up the exact same parameters I just ran. So I don't have to reset everything. So if I want to do the other one, pathways north, I can just drop that in and then just say this is number 2 for the second half. And that's all I have to change. It'll do the exact same thing. And again, dissolve type all. We could do here, let's not do all. And let's do none on this one. I'll show you what the difference is because we're going to combine it. So you can see these made nice blobs that were dissolved, so the boundaries aren't there, and these made many different blobs that are all like separated by every time there was a line. So if I had done that and dissolved it, it would have been all one. Okay, so that's buffer. Now the next thing we're going to do is merge all this together into one file. We're basically going to put everything all into one. So I'm going to look for the merge tool, and I'm going to copy the chapter, and we're going to go into these tools all again. And you'll notice the most common tools. So first time I looked for it, I went to Arc Toolbox, I went to the analysis tool set. Now I'm just in the geoprocessing drop-down window, and it has the most common 6 tools, which we're going to use a bunch of them, right? So we already used buffer. Now we're going to use merge. You can see that it's expecting multiple data sets. The data sets will merge together into one new output. So I'm going to take all of that, drop it in, and I'm going to tell it to call it developed land. And I'm going to call that developed land overlap. Because as you'll see, it's going to come in as everything all on top of each other. So if I look at this pathway, overlaps with that building there. And we don't want that. We just want a representation. Oh, it's funny. It didn't bring in my new pathway. I wonder what went wrong. Oh, it's giving me an error. It's funny. All right, let's remove these. And let's just do a separate one. So you can see if I turn that on, it forgot to add the number 2. What the heck? So we'll do another one for the merge. Or we can use a union, which does a similar thing. It just combines the actual polygons. The merge just puts all the records into one table. And then the union will actually take these 2 things and make them one. And we don't really care how this comes out, because really all we want is one boundary that has just developed land. I selected that one. Oh, I guess it wasn't a problem. Okay, great. Oh, it was a problem. That might have been the problem. I might have had something selected. That was probably it. So let's just run the union again without anything selected. A lot of times when you do geoprocessing, you end up with a lot of different layers. There we go. All right, everything's in one file now. You can see if I change it. It's a pretty good representation of all of the paved land. Although it's not perfect, because clearly that could be added, but isn't it? I think this is a whole new building now, which I have in one of these files.
Even though the parking lot would be hard to add because it modified it so heavily down there.
You know what we could do? Let's just edit, and let's just draw an approximation for that new building in there. I'll just show you kind of, this is like really quick analysis, right? I mean, it's not going to be like right anyway, but it's going to be directionally close. I mean, it's got to be, what, that big? At least.
Go see that white spot next to the building up there? It goes further
Something
back
like
than
that. Right here, you mean?
Yeah.
I know I have this building, but we're going to skip that. Where's my vertex editor? All right, here we go. Here?
Yeah, roughly like a little bit further back, but that's close enough.
All right, cool. Just to represent some land here. And that's the only major change I'll do. Because did you say, is this still paved down here? You think we should add it?
It's like they're in the process of concrete.
It's like
Oh, really?
really torn up, so it's hard to tell what they're going to do with it.
All right, so then the next thing.
What they're gonna do with it?
I'm not going to trust them to finish it.
Well, they're adding in an outdoor amphitheater. As well as they're making it to all greenery, so it's not gonna be a pathway anyways.
All right, so all we're going to do is we're going to calculate now the area of, oh, well, maybe we can, all right, so now we're going to dissolve everything into two shapefiles, right? So dissolve is another good tool that eliminates boundaries between things, and it makes everything, if it's a multiple polygons, it makes it just one big polygon. So we're going to dissolve is, again, one of the tools, like there's only like 6 tools that you're going to use all the time. And when Noah mentioned this, I was like, yeah, this is a good example because it's using a lot of them. So I'm going to take the developed land union 2, and I'm going to call it our just developed land. And then maybe call it dissolved. Because I like to, it's hard to know what happened to some of these things if you don't keep track. And the best way to tell is by your lists, right? So you kind of know what you can do. You can backtrack if you have your results window open. So, let's turn these guys on. So you can see, now we have a nice polygon. One big polygon. One single thing. That's dissolved all of the different layers that we put together last year in class. We merged them together and we dissolved them. So what we can do now is make a new, stop editing. And we're going to make a new field. We just want to make the field on the parcels, right? Because the only things that matter at this point are the parcels and the developed area, because we're going to calculate the area of the parcels total, and then we're going to calculate that before and after we remove all the places that are paved. So developed area, UNE parcels, let's dissolve that too. Because you can see right now the UNE parcels is multiple different parcels. So let's take a look at what a fair representation of UNE's campus is, because I feel like we don't want to include the 363 in this because that's going to make it look like the whole campus is not developed. I would say it's fair to maybe include all this out here. These are all parcels that are owned by the university. Or we could say we're only going to include parcels with something on them. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard to... Well, let's just do everything besides 363. That makes it easy. And I wonder if it's... I wonder what the message we want to send is, right? Like, do we want to say that there's a lot of open land on UNE? Because in that case, we can include 360. Let's do it before, with and without 363. I think that's a good...
So what about the roads?
So the roads count as developed. So one of the layers that we made last year was the edge of pavement, which is a typical layer that you'd see to outline the pavement on the roads. So, of course, it's all an approximation, but All right. UNE parcels. Let's dissolve these. And since I only have a few selected, I think it's just going to give me the ones that I have. UNE parcels, no 363 in this one. And again, it's just one layer, one feature now for all of them. But now we can just calculate the area once. So if we go in and we add in a new field, if I do area fields, I like to put what the units are going to be. So let's just do, I don't know, acres or something. Is that a normal? Acres, do a double. And then I can just calculate geometry for area in acres. Boom. Yes. So now we have 9,000 acres without 363. And what I would typically do is have a spreadsheet going because keeping track of this kind of information in ArcMap is not the easiest thing. But you can just go and copy that and paste it. And then say, okay, so this would be for UNE without 363 acres. Okay, go ahead.
What does the shape area represent? What's that area?
There's a way to get that to be exactly what you want it to be, but it has to be like the projection and the coordinate system have to be exactly right. And a lot of times, I think that might represent the amount of meters or the amount of feet in total the area is, depending on, if you look down here, you can see it's in feet. So it's probably the total square feet of the area, but I'm not sure. Sometimes it's really hard to tell. It's all automatically generated by the database, and it's like you would think that you could just trust that to be something, but in my experience, I would recommend that you make a new field, you put it in a good projection, and you calculate the new area, and that's how you get area. I've just been burned too many times. So let's see what happens if we calculate the area with 363. And I just clicked on something. All right, so so it's gone now, but let's add that in here. So if I select that, I think we can just do another merge. Oh, you know what? Let's not do that. Let's just calculate the area of this one parcel. And then we can just get that into the other. So if I open my parcels data set, you can see this is just the regular parcels I got from the city. I'll make, and still even here, when there's probably an acreage field, I'm going to recalculate it. So the idea is that this way, I just did it as a text field, I think. Nope, I did it right. This way, I can be sure that I calculated both areas in the same way. Because if you take a pre-calculated area, it might have been done in some other projection, it might be wrong, or it might be not what you need. So I can just do calculate geometry. And acres. And I can see that 363 is that many acres alone. So then I can do a total sum of that and that. Seems like a lot, doesn't it? Oh, I guess it is about 10,000. Yeah, it's 1.5 times. There, that's helpful. Yeah, so the 363 is 1.5 times the size of regular campus, which makes about sense. And then total UNE parcels area. So what we then need is the area. So There's one easy way to do it, which would be just to get the area of the developed land. Oh, no, we can't, because the developed land goes beyond the borders, right? Like the road goes way beyond, and well, sometimes the road's not even part of the parcels, which is fine. But I'd rather erase the developed land from the parcels and get a new area. So there's nothing developed on 363, so we don't have to worry about that. But we would use this tool, and this tool is not in the typical list, and I don't know why not, but it's a helpful tool. So if it's not there, then we can search for tools, which is this button, or there's this little button on your home bar that is search, right next to catalog. I would say most people would probably come into this window and search for their tool, because the tools are named weird, like in ArcMap. Like if you want to get like a polygon and then turn it into like a point, get the centroid, it's called feature to point is the tool. So like you wouldn't really think of that as the, but there's a lot of examples like that where it's just legacy stuff. So if I search for erase, also point out for some reason, well, I don't know why there's two. I kind of forget what the coverage one does. Oh, I was going to mention this, that to use erase, you need to have a higher license level, which you guys have because you're on education accounts. But for some reason, you need that. So what we can do is go on to the computer with a higher license level. Wow, it got dark. All right. So I'm just going to take this database, put it out here. This is a common thing to have to move data just so you can use a higher license level. Still copying. Oh, not helpful. May not work. Let's see. Darn it. Oh, I bet it has a lock on it. I have to close this. All right. Just overwrite it. There we go. So, thankfully, we renamed these things. So that's our developed land. And UNE parcels, no UNE. So now we're gonna use our little search for tools again. We're gonna hope I actually have the license level on this machine. Pretty sure I do. Oh, look at that. All right. So erase, this one I'm going to show help and it will help me out. So sometimes it's a little confusing about what you're doing because it has bad names for these windows, right? So if you click on input features, it'll tell you input feature class, and that's not that helpful. But this one, these are the features used to erase the other features. So you can be like, oh, okay, the developed land is what I'm going to use to erase the parcels. So I'm going to put that into erase features, and then I'm going to put the parcels into the input. And I'm going to save it in here. UNE parcels dev land erased. Okay. And now, see, it's got holes in it. So, classic geoprocessing thing, right? Like we're taking polygons, we're mass editing them in really, like, you could have done this for the whole world, the polygons all at the same time. What we would have done if we had the polygons of like the inundated areas is erase that from the land of the world and get the area before and the area after. So now we can open this. So one thing to be careful of, that's wrong now because I erased it. It didn't automatically update. So I can just recalculate it to be acres, and it'll go down. Yep, to 72. Back to my sheet. UNE parcels without dev land. So now we can start to say something about this. All right, so percentages. So let's first say we can do developed land area if we do a few different things. We can take just the area without the 363 and we can subtract that from the area that we did after we had the developed land erased, and we can say that there's 1,800 acres of developed land on campus. With that, we can say percent developed is that divided by the original number, so 20%. That's if we don't include the 363, right? So we can actually call that without 363. And we can make another version of this with 363. And we can say, now we want to do total with 363 minus UNE parcels. Wait, does that make sense? Does that make sense? And then I would do that divided by the total. Let's think about this. All right, so in this first scenario, we did total land on UNE minus the land without development, and so we can figure out what the developed land is, and then percent change is change over new value, I think. Old minus new over old. Yeah, so it is old minus new over old. So it's the change minus the original value, or the change divided by the original value. So then we do the same thing here, where we say we started with 23,000 acres if we include 363. Then we subtract the new value, which would be actually this one plus 363. That's the difference. Yeah, so it's actually. Oh, wow. Developed land area is the same. Well, I mean, it should be way less developed if we include 363. You know, like. Yeah, I mean, this is definitely wrong. All right, well, let's think about that. Let's just go with this number for now, because I'm sure that's right, and then we can think about it some more. We can take a break and think about it.